Thank you very much. So the first half of the event today, we were talking about the technical side of drones. So you had some software stuff, hardware stuff, 3D printing, manufacturing. And naturally, if you have felt, discussion during the Q&A kind of went towards regulations. And coincidence much, we have a panel about regulations, and we have two experts in regulations here to handle your hard questions. So let me just introduce the panelists today. Alright, firstly we have Jonathan Nicholson, Assistant Director Communications from Civil Aviation Authority. So Jonathan deals with the whole of aviation regulations within the UK. The CAA is currently running a major campaign to raise awareness about drones and how to fly them safely. And the CAA is also looking at how to create behavioral changes among drone users to ensure that the future for drones, drone usage will become safer for everyone. Next up we have Philip from NATS. Philip is Solution Architect and Air Traffic Control Specialist. So prior to NATS, Philip was the Air Traffic Controller at the RAF. And NATS is the UK's leading provider of air traffic control services. And each year NATS handles about 2.5 million flights and about 250 million passengers within the UK airspace. So I'm just going to go straight into the topic and just quickly get the idea, get your general take on drones and how the industry is moving forward.
So I guess first thing to say is you're supposed to boo when the regulator comes on, and you didn't, so that's all bad, failed. But we are absolutely pro-drone. So we come at this looking at it from the aspect of drones have an amazing potential. We've seen all this stuff behind us, and I've seen way more than even that it can do. But if we're going to get there, we all need to do things properly now. So if it's any idea of what, you are an educated audience, you are a specific audience that knows about drones and knows what they can do, that is not the general public view. If it's any idea, we had contact from a journalist today in a local newspaper that came in as a press call to us. They were running a story that a 75-year-old grandfather had been shocked to find a drone in the tree in his garden, wedged there. He thought it had probably been spying on his grandchildren when they were playing in the garden. He thought that this kind of thing should be banned, that this was obviously a surveillance drone because he found a camera on it, and he thought it was a very bad thing. They sent us through a photo of the grandfather with the drone, and the drone fitted in the palm of his hand. That is where we are with a lot of the people out there, and that is why we all need to fly safely and properly now, so that all the good things that we want to do, all the startups, all the fantastic stuff can happen. Because as much as you want to do these things, there are a lot of people out there who aren't quite convinced, and we need to convince them that this can be done and can be done safely.
Okay, then Phil Binks from NATS. So air traffic control, as you can imagine, the gentleman over there pointed out earlier on that the number of incidents occurring in and around the use of drones is rising significantly. So the number of air proxies that take place, that's when a pilot deems two aircraft getting too close together, and it's a safety risk to the airframe or the people on board. Unfortunately, you drone operators, or you guys getting involved in this bit of space at the moment, you're not just up against the gentleman that Jonathan just pointed out, but you're also up against the pilot, the traditional aviator. You'll find a lot of people, whether it's the GA community or even the professional pilot, are dead set against drones. So it's going to be a hard sell for you guys. And but getting involved right from the start and getting involved in the safety side is absolutely crucial. But I'll just give you an example of what you're up against and the number of air proxies that we face. So it is going significantly. Unfortunately, there's a pilots association here in the UK, British Pilots Association, I'm not going to say exactly which one, but I'll let you guess. And they have now told all their pilots, if you're unsure what you saw, report it as a drone. So straight away you're up against, if you're unsure, a professional pilot's just going to report it as a drone, whether it's a drone or not. And the figures now we're starting to get coming through, which are coming through to the Airprox board and stuff like this. We had a pilot report a drone at 36,000 feet. So you've got a question, is that a real drone or is it something else? So we're up against that kind of behaviour. So, pilots are going to be superhuman, they're travelling at 500 miles an hour, but yet they can spot a drone a couple of feet across. So there's a balancing here. There are also drones, though, more seriously though, there are drones being reported at 12,500 feet over London. So I don't know whether you're familiar with air traffic control, we have these stacks. If you ever fly into Heathrow, you'll always be sent into a stack to orbit for 10 minutes to go and land at Heathrow. That's for various reasons. But in those stacks, a drone has been reported at 12,500 feet. That's actually quite a significant level because pilots aren't expected to see them. Air traffic control aren't expecting a pilot to do something untoward at 12,500 feet. And it's the knock-on effect that can cause is quite significant. We believe that's a genuine report. It's happened 3 times in the same place. So we actually think it's one person flying his drone inappropriately in a certain area. But working with the CAA, we are now trying to educate. And again, we are not looking, the industry, with its air traffic, the Aviation Authority, have now got to engage with people they have never had to engage with before. We're used to the professional, we're used to the general aviator who does a long course to get his private pilot licence, and they know a bit about airspace, they know where they can and cannot fly, they know how to use a radio and all these kind of things. And all of a sudden, we are dealing with people who go to Macklin, they've got 500 quid in their back pocket, take a drone out and they go fly. And they don't understand the dangers. So for us as NAPs and to cope with these air proxies and to address them, we believe education is fundamental to getting this right. But it's up to us, as well as the users. We've got to aim for the right target audience, which is completely different to what we've had before. But likewise, the users today need to understand about the airspace. Sorry, lecture over.
Thank you very much. Earlier today, Dr. Merkel talked about the vision in the future where we have drones in the city delivering products in a very complex logistics system, right? And there is this whole industry, drone delivering or otherwise, is actively trying to develop systems to be used in urbanized areas. In fact, there are a few startups right here in the audience doing that. So how do you think regulations will change so as to allow for this vision to materialize?
So I guess for us, we've been working quite closely with Amazon Prime and their testing, and I've been out to Cambridge to see them. I guess for us, the prime thing, it comes down to other airspace users. So my friend is a hang glider pilot, and I need to convince him that when he goes flying at 200 feet off a hill in the Downs, he's not going to get a drone in his face. And I need to convince the London Medivac helicopter that we deal with and work with, that their tail rotor, which is really fragile, like the tiniest little impact on it, and helicopters don't fly over their tail rotors, that tail rotor isn't going to be impacted by a drone. And it comes down to sense and avoid. So, the Phantoms, the Mavics, etc., we're getting so that they can, not fly into a tree and do good things like that. But we need to get to the stage where they can, a delivery drone can detect a light aircraft or a police helicopter operating at 200 feet over a city centre, doing 160, 170 knots, coming in the opposite direction, sense it and avoid it. And we're not there yet. And we need to convince all those other airspace users that when we do get there, that that's safe and can happen. Because a hang glider pilot doesn't have any electronic conspicuity on him. Lots of light aircraft don't even have a radio. right? So they are actively out there flying around at 400, 500 feet or less, potentially. I mean, if you get out in the countryside, the rules say that you should stay 500 feet from a vehicle, vessel, object or structure. So if you're on flat ground in fens, you could be at 50 foot in a light aircraft and be perfectly legal and not have a radio and have no electrical supply at all in your aircraft. So it's no good saying, oh, well, the drone can transmit and the other aircraft can transmit and their two devices can talk to each other, because lots of light aircraft and a hang glider pilot doesn't have that ability. So we need to get to that stage where the drones can do that sense and avoid and not based on an electronic system.
For that, so again, it's about air traffic management and air traffic management. We will need to do that with drones, and some of you may have heard of what's called UTM, which is UAV traffic management. So we're going to get to a point whereby there's going to be so many drones and RPAS flying around that they will need to be managed in some way, shape or form. Obviously, in urban environments, it's going to be quite challenging. You can't use normal radar to see these things, so we need other forms of detection. And it's not just going to be one simple form of detection. Radar can be part of the solution. You can have form of electronic conspicuity, could be another. You have GPS as another. But ultimately, all these things coming together, at the moment, all of them have certain failings, and some are good, some are bad. But the key is, will it happen? Absolutely will it happen, without a shadow of a doubt. But the key is making it effectively a known traffic environment. So we know about aircraft flying around. If we know you're flying around there, it's a damn sight easy to separate you. And actually, we can electronically see you. That's even better still. And when you start becoming electronic conspicuity, and we can talk to you electronically, and drones can talk to each other electronically, then we can start building up some form of separation. So there's going to be a capability where it's going to be ground separated. There's going to be a system on the ground. We could plan. As we do today, you can file a flight plan. A manned flight, they file a flight plan, it comes to us, and we make sure you miss each other. Then there's this detect and avoid or sense and avoid. Well, with manned flight, they've got the Mark II eyeball on the cockpit, and they can see. So if their traffic goes horribly wrong, the guys can still look out of the window and do their best. And they still have forms of electronic gadgets on board their aircraft. So how do we make a drone behave like a person and can see out of the window? How do you make that drone happen? So it's all form of electronic conspicuity. There are lots and lots of safety measures we've got to get involved and issues we face, and it's all going to come down to capacity, who has rights of way, would a police drone have right of way over an Amazon drone or a DXR drone, all these kind of things. There's lots and lots of things we need to address and see how they all fit together. But will it happen? Absolutely. Do NATS want it to happen? Absolutely. Bring it on. You know, this is a fantastic industry. As what's been described today, this evening, you know, the opportunities around these are just phenomenal.
And it's probably worth saying, I mean, drone users are equal airspace users. And we have the same rights. So, you know, a drone user now operating in a field with a helicopter passing nearby, it's as much the helicopter's responsibility to see and avoid you as it is to you and see and avoid him. So you have that equal access, but it's when we start getting beyond line of sight that you need to start getting into that new technology and systems.
Right, thank you. So there are lots of hobbyists here as well in the audience, and a lot of students who want to pick up, buy a drone and start flying or develop their own drone. So what are some of the things that they should be actively looking out for, or things they should learn? Perhaps some of the programs CA and NATS are running that could help them become a more responsible drone user.
I'll let Phil talk about his app. He's the app. I mean, really, we try to make it as absolutely simple as possible. Coming back to what Phil said earlier about, you know, someone could go and buy a drone from Mappins, and by the time the battery's charged, they can be flying it. It's a totally different thing for us. We're normally used to dealing with pilots that have gone through hours of training, have licenses, we know who they are, we can contact them directly. This is a whole new world for us. So about 6 months ago, we started on quite a large education program, and we've looked at it purely from the fact of It's no point coming to these people with a big stick and saying, you are naughty, we will, whatever, because that's the quickest way to turn people off. These are just members of the general public who quite likely have no knowledge about what goes on above their heads, and we shouldn't expect them to. So we need to come at this with a very open, a very encouraging culture, and it's a behavioural change programme. We look at this as the Drink Drive campaign, or Stop Look Listen campaign, or Pick Up Your Dog Mess campaign. This is a behavioural change campaign that will run for years about educating people, consumer users, about how to fly your drone properly. Commercial users have been on courses. We're happy to let them carry on. But the consumer user, we're running a big education programme. You've got the drone code here in front of you. There's the DroneSoc website. And to actually show that we want to encourage, we've done things like the 400-foot Britain photo competition, which has been really successful, to actually get to people in a positive way and try and get them to fly their drone safely. And it comes back to that ambassador thing about we all need to be ambassadors now to make sure we can get what we want out of drones in the future. Otherwise, government, public pressure will potentially not allow that to happen. So absolutely, follow the drone code and you can't go wrong. Common sense. Whenever I'm doing TV and radio interviews, I say to people, use your common sense. If it looks like you shouldn't be flying a drone here, or it's not safe, or it's not a good way to do it, it probably isn't. That's your brain telling you not to do it. So, follow the drone code, not above 400 feet, not near an airport or an airfield, and just use your common sense. It's not hard. Some of the photos we've got into the competition where people have abided by the drone code and not flown over 400 feet are absolutely amazing. There's no need to go beyond what you should be doing. Absolutely.
And now, hard sell. Drone assist then. So obviously education, so important. We felt the best way to do this. The CAA went down the drone code, we supported them developing the drone code. We set up then DroneSafe.uk, and it's a single point of information for drones, what you should or what you shouldn't be doing. And therefore, on the back of that, then Nat set up this thing called Drone Assist. It's an app which gives you detailed information about the airspace you could fly in. Very, very simple colour coding. There's red areas, there's yellow areas, and there's some blue areas. And also, if you use the Fly Now function, you're out in the field and you go, oh, I'm going to fly now. You hit the Fly Now function button, and that broadcasts to everybody else using that app, as well as other sort of UTM startup companies. I think there are about 4 companies that are all tied in. That information goes to all these other areas as well. And it just basically highlights that, there's somebody using a drone in that area. It's not to say you can't use a drone in that area. It just highlights the fact. It's just a little bit of awareness all about it. The app is free, and has it been a success? Well, it's been launched for 2 months now. We've now got 10,000 people using the drone. The Fly Now function has been used over 5,000 times. And when you go into the drone, I'd encourage you all to download it and just at least have a look and see what it shows you and hopefully learn stuff. Interacting with the map, so we've had over 3 million interactions with the map around the UK. So we hopefully think that's a good sign that people are taking interest in where they're flying and what's on around. And just like Jonathan said, a lot of it's just common sense. If you've got an airfield down the road, it's probably best not to fly in that bit of airspace, just to move a few miles away at least. Or if you want to do it professionally and there's a reason for being there, well, just give the airfield a call. Just simple little forms of communication. They don't necessarily go to say, no, you can't do that. But they might just say, look, not the next half an hour, please, we've got something happening. But it's that data exchange. Information exchange is so important. Get out there, talk to people, and find out. That's what I say.
Thank you very much. And I'm very sure there are lots of eager members of the audience who want to ask really tough questions. In fact, some of them emailed us saying, how do you get in touch with the regulators? Right, so open the floor for questions.
Jonathan's a clever one, so I'm just going to sit down.
I've got a quick question. As I said before, I'm a professional operator. The CAA and NATS, you've always been brilliant with our operation, so you're doing a great job in a very difficult situation. But essentially, in the last month or so, or however long it's been, EASA, the European Aviation Safety Agency, if people don't know, have made some tweaks to some legislation and it's impacting hobbyists a lot.
Potentially, not yet.
Yeah, sorry, potentially impacting hobbyists. I'd be interested, if that comes into fruition, but also how is the Brexit going to be impacting what we're doing? I'd just be interested
We managed to catch a couple of hours before Brexit came
No,
out.
but in terms of CAA, you've always been very independent anyway. But I was just thinking if that's changed any of your future plans and how everything you've got going.
Yeah, so drones at the moment in Europe, you've got rid of them all. You mentioned Brexit, everybody's disappeared. So drones at the moment are regulated nationally. So most of aviation within Europe is regulated by the European Aviation Safety Agency. So there's one set of rules for Europe for everything, from pilot licensing to aerodrome lighting to absolutely everything, which makes common sense because aircraft, fly, goodness knows how many 100 miles an hour and cross about 5 borders in Europe in about 30 seconds. So it makes sense to have one common set of rules for aviation. The drones, traditionally, because they're quite new, have always been done nationally. So the rules in one country can be quite different to another. I think in Sweden, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't fly a drone with a camera unless you're a commercial operator. So there's a lot of differences between Europe. So EASA have a couple of months ago put out some proposed regulations for drones for Europe, which would be one set of rules for the whole of Europe. They didn't have the power to actually enact that but very recently their basic regulation was changed in the European Commission and they do now have the power to legislate drones. The consultation on their proposals closed a little while ago, and later this year, probably summertime, they will put forward what they think will be the rules for Europe for drones. And those may be different to what we currently have in the UK. We need to wait and see. So a lot of people inputted into that, including us, and our input was very much based around it needs to be proportionate, it needs to be usable and enforceable. You can see where I'm going with that saying. So that was what we put forward into that. We need to wait and see. There are 28 countries that also put in, not all of them have the same views as we do. So we need to wait and see what the EASA comes up with that. And the catch-22 question is, will we still even be in the EASA? And we don't know. So, British Airways don't know at the moment whether they're going to be complying with the EASA regulations in the future, let alone drone users. So that will be a decision for the government. They need to decide whether we stay within the EASA system or not. And then if we do, then we need to decide whether we take on drone regs or not. So it's watch this space, I'm afraid. I really can't give you any more than that.
No, it's fantastic.
Anything you want to add?
It's definitely a regulated question.
Unfortunately, we can't have any more questions. But that being said, we have some snacks and drinks outside for a networking session. So you're free to ask more questions. So in the meantime, if you have any questions about DroneSoc, do approach us and we're happy to help you out.